Lewis Hamilton's tenure with Ferrari has just been spiced up as a fresh leaked exit clause in his contract makes things a lot more interesting to watch beyond 2026. The seven-time world champion is reported to have a unique option solely dependent on him after the first year of the new regulations. But how will this affect his quest for the eighth championship if Ferrari fails to build a competitive challenger in the newly regulated era? And more importantly, would Hamilton consider leaving earlier than anticipated based on the team's priorities with their drivers? The biggest signing of the century, Lewis Hamilton to Ferrari, hasn't really lived up to expectations just yet. Although Vasseur tried to convince us that this is more of a 2026 type of deal, we were all too drawn to the fact that the seven-time world champion is changing environments for the first time since 2014. And that didn't really go according to plan. It's not just the fact that Ferrari's not competitive, but that they have no idea where their car is performing badly. Even with a new rear suspension, neither of the drivers have felt improvements in the SF25, suggesting that if things go bad, the engineers back in Maranello have no fix for the problem. That could cause some concerns for Hamilton at Ferrari. The Italian-based squad needs to nail the new regulations perfectly if they're to fight with Mercedes, McLaren, or maybe even Aston Martin at the top. I can definitely see how disappointed Hamilton and Leclerc would be if this doesn't go their way. But now, according to new reports, there's an exit clause that allows Hamilton to choose his own fate without being dependent on the team after the second year of his contract, which is 2025. According to La Gazzetta dello Sport, the lucrative two-year contract that Hamilton signed with Ferrari didn't come without its own conditions. John Elkann is reported to be standing firmly behind Hamilton and his struggles. However, there could be a situation in which Hamilton could leave the team if he chooses, without Ferrari having a chance to stop him. The clause is reported to allow him, and solely him, to decide whether a third year in the prancing horse would be a reality. Judging by a potential disappointment in 2025, I don't think he would be thrilled to stay a couple more years with the Maranello-based squad if they continue with this trend of upgrade failures. What's more important here is the support I just mentioned that Hamilton has from John Elkann. According to the Italian media outlet, there is no other choice for Ferrari but to support the seven-time world champion and help him rediscover his form. This might be one of the reasons why the 2026 car is likely going to have a lot more of his DNA in it, something we'll discuss a bit later in this video. Elaborating further on this backing from Elkann, La Gazzetta wrote, *, there is no other choice, since Elkann has decided to hire the most successful driver in history, the symbol of F1, investing huge sums in an operation that has very important commercial implications for the prancing horse, but to help Hamilton rediscover his form. *, we've seen that after the Hungarian Grand Prix, he was totally devastated. The car that his teammate put on pole truly hurt his self-confidence, as he went on to say that he's useless and the team needs to find another driver. I understand that in tough times, when you can't even make it to Q3, things can be said without meaning them. But such deep words are hard to ignore by the F1 media. Needless to say, Ferrari are already focused on 2026, and their project is looking really promising. With Fred Vasseur receiving a new extension as team principal of the Maranello-based squad, the stage is set for the dominance of Hamilton or Leclerc. But this is where things could get a bit tricky for Hamilton, and why we need to pay close attention to that exit clause. Reports have stated that Ferrari are now developing the car a bit more in his direction. And although both he and Leclerc have similar preferences, an understory car, Hamilton prefers to have a little more rear load on his car compared to Charles. If that ends up being the case in 2026, then it's safe to say that Leclerc would have to adapt to Hamilton's style a bit more than usual, which I don't think would present too big of a problem for the Monegasque. There have been some interesting reports coming from sources close to the team, and that's the experiments that Ferrari's made with Hamilton's 2026 car in order to make him feel more comfortable with it. Of course, when we say experiments, it can only mean one thing. It comes with a downside. In this case, Ferrari's tried something else with Hamilton's battery pack, but the risk is that the improved size and weight of it could leave the seven-time world champion struggling for charge in certain situations. It's not a very pleasant position to be in, but at the end of the day, Ferrari's here to make all the sacrifices needed. And with next year being a big question mark for everyone, I believe the intra-team battle between Hamilton and Leclerc will be one of the main story makers for the F1 media. All this hype around the Brit made us forget one very important thing. The Maranello Bay squad has their golden boy, the prince of the team who's been a part of the squad since 2019. If they build a competitive car that can be up there at the front, who says no to Charles winning his first championship? He's been in the sport long enough, gone through thick and thin with Ferrari, and quite frankly, I do think he has the preloaded package of becoming a title holder, bringing it home for the team for the first time since 2007. Obviously, an inter-team battle similar to the one that's happening in McLaren will be present in Ferrari in 2026, and that could also indicate whether or not Hamilton would activate his clause. If he suddenly loses a lot of pace despite the car being more shifted towards his preference of driving, then I don't think he would be eager to stay a couple more years with the Maranello Bay squad. With all of this in mind, what do you think about the infamous exit clause that allows Hamilton to just walk away from Ferrari after 2026? And more importantly, do you think he would activate it if the loss to Charles is just too big to cover? Let us know in the comments below. And once you do that, make sure to click on the video that's appearing on your screen right now.